The morning the radio crackled. Infant not breathing. No exit. I was already staring at the iron gate to Silver Pines Ridge, watching snow stack up like concrete. I could see people pressed to the glass on the other side, and I could hear Linda Harper, the HOA president, screaming that if I touched her gate, I'd be trespassing. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about snow removal anymore, it was about control, and someone was about to pay for it. I run a small outfit called Brooks Snow and Haul, and in winter that basically means I live in my boots. I've got 2 trucks I trust, one old rig named Maggie that refuses to die, and a crew that knows the difference between nice to have and people might actually get hurt. My whole routine is simple county routes, first school loops, fire stations, the places that matter when the weather turns ugly. You don't get to skip an ambulance route because somebody wants their cul-de-sac to look boutique. Snow doesn't care what your neighborhood Facebook group voted on. Silver Pines Ridge used to be a normal contract for us. Annoying, sometimes sure but steady work, and a few of the older residents were genuinely kind cookies at Christmas, hot coffee in a thermos, that kind of thing. Then Linda Harper showed up like she'd been printed out of a catalog, fresh manicure, pearl white SUV, clipboard in hand like it was a badge. She told me dead serious that my plow operation looked too industrial and that the Homeowners Association expected white glove treatment. White glove treatment? For snow. In Michigan. I stared at her for a second like my brain needed a software update. Then I said, "Ma'am, snow doesn't wear gloves." She laughed like I was the help getting mouthy. Right after that, the rules started multiplying. Don't use salt, it's unsightly. Make the snow look pretty for their open house. Don't plow too early. Don't plow too late. Don't leave piles where people can see them from the clubhouse windows. It wasn't guidance. It was power. Tiny little demands meant to remind everyone who got to boss who. And if you didn't play along, Linda didn't argue. She punished. 2 weeks later, I got a formal letter contract terminated for unpleasant visual impact. That was the phrase. Like my truck offended their landscaping. I could have stormed into a meeting and made it a whole thing. But I've learned something over the years: when someone's building a lie, you don't always swing first. Sometimes you let them keep stacking bricks, and you start taking pictures. So I documented everything. Cameras on my lot, cameras on the trucks, every email saved, every voicemail archived. I filed records requests for old complaints. I pulled municipal notes. I started treating Linda like a case file. And that's when it got weird. My backup salt pile got slashed open one night. Just enough to ruin it. Tire tracks showed up by my diesel tanks that didn't match my crew's rigs. Nothing I could prove in a single moment. But it smelled like someone wanted me scrambling when the real storm hit. Meanwhile, Silver Pines newsletter announced a new era of snow care with their shiny new contractor, some outfit called Alpine Edge Services. I looked it up out of habit and laughed out loud in my office. Because Alpine Edge didn't exist, not anymore. The name had been dead for years. That's when I knew Linda wasn't just replacing me. She was staging a performance paperwork, announcements, grand statements, hoping nobody would check the foundation. Then the first big storm rolled in, the wet, heavy stuff that snaps branches and turns roads into slush cement. My crew ran the county routes like always, hospital access, schools, fire stations, while Silver Pines sat there behind their fancy entrance sign and their brand new gate. Yeah, the gate. They'd installed a motorized gate, locked tight, buried in snow, like the neighborhood was a private island. It wasn't just a flex. It was a barrier, one that would keep out me, keep out the county, keep out anyone who didn't kiss the ring of the HOA. That night, my phone started filling up. Board members left frantic voicemails pretending to be polite. Residents sent messages that bounced between panic and anger. One nurse even offered to pay me privately, like we were doing an under-the-table rescue mission instead of a public safety issue. Then Linda finally texted me herself. "We have elderly residents without heat. We can talk compensation. Please send a truck." I watched my drone footage, untouched roads, no plow in sight. Their new contractor phone line disconnected, and I felt my jaw clench so hard it hurt. Part of me wanted to roll Maggie over there just to stop people from suffering. And I'll be honest, I hit a wall right then. I sat in my cab with the heater blasting, staring at that gate on the monitor, and I thought maybe I should just swallow it. Take the money, get them cleared, keep the peace. Let Linda have her little kingdom and move on. Because being the bad guy in someone else's emergency, that's not a great feeling, even if you know the truth. But then the practical part of my brain kicked in, the part that's kept my business alive. If I went in without forcing this into the open, Linda would spin it as a misunderstanding, claim she did everything right, and keep using fake contracts and intimidation until the next time someone got hurt. So I didn't move, not yet. Instead, I tightened the file. Every voicemail, every threat, every authorize your re-entry message that magically appeared after they'd kicked me out. I pulled their contract from the HOA portal and checked the metadata. Linda's name was on it as the creator, the editor, the modifier, all of it. The signature was pasted from an old inspection form, and the contractor's name attached to the deal belonged to a man who died years ago. A dead man's company, a dead man's signature, and a living, breathing HOA president using it to lock an entire neighborhood behind a gate. That's not arrogance, that's fraud with a clipboard. Then came the twist that flipped everything. One of my guys, Kyle, lived near Silver Pines, not inside the gates, but close enough that he got invited to their emergency meeting. He walked in wearing a hoodie and a normal face like he was just another stressed neighbor, and he streamed the whole thing to a secure drive. Linda stood up there like she was hosting a press conference, blaming sabotage, blaming weather patterns, blaming me, basically blaming gravity. Then, thinking she was safe, she said the line that burned her whole empire down. "Let's backdate the contract," she said. "Make it look like we never hired the fake service." Kyle caught it clean. Audio, video, the whole ugly sentence, calm, casual, like falsifying records, was just a scheduling adjustment. The next morning, my attorney, Sarah Klein, and I walked into the county clerk's office with a folder thick enough to qualify as cardio. We filed for an injunction, a full audit, and a criminal investigation. The clerk stamped it, looked up at us, and said, "We'll fast-track this." For the first time all winter, I slept like a rock. Linda didn't. She fired off one last wild email to the residents, something about external interference, uncooperative vendors, and how the homeowners association was the true victim here. It backfired immediately. A reporter got hold of the footage, drone shots of blocked roads, bored emails, Linda's own words about backdating. And the story hit the front page, HOA under fire for forged contracts and blocked emergency access. And then the third wave hit. Full whiteout. Drifts taller than mailboxes. Fences vanished. Driveways disappeared. Silver Pines Ridge looked less like a neighborhood and more like a frozen landfill of cars and rooftops. My crew was ready to keep running our routes, but the radio snapped to life with a call that cut through everything. Infant not breathing, Cedar Hollow, no exit. That was inside Silver Pines. I didn't hesitate. We rolled Maggie up to the gate, cameras running drone in the air, and I could see residents crowding the entrance like it was the last lifeboat. Linda was there too, front and center, waving her clipboard like paperwork could hold back reality. "You can't come in," she shouted. "This is private property. You're not authorized." I looked at her through the windshield and said, "Someone's kid can't breathe, Linda." She opened her mouth again, probably to say liability or procedure, and I stopped listening. I nodded once to my driver. Maggie's blade hit that metal gate with a scream, and the thing buckled like a soda can. We pushed through tires, chewing snow, engine roaring, and suddenly her little kingdom was just another road. We found the vehicle fast, half-buried hazard lights blinking weakly. A mom was holding her baby tight, shaking, and I'm not going to dramatize it for clicks. It was bad, and it was real. Kyle moved like he'd done it 100 times, got the door cleared, got the baby into warmth, got the path open for help. We didn't stop to argue about bylaws. We cleared lanes, freed cars, cut a route straight to where emergency services could actually get in. And when we finally passed the main lodge, I saw Linda through the big window, standing there without her speech, without her audience, just watching the trucks she tried to erase do the work she couldn't control. That afternoon I filed everything with the county inspector. Footage, logs, rescue reports, timelines, every liability, every decision, every message clean and documented. 3 days later there was a hearing. No theatrics, just facts. Linda's side tried to spin it, blame the imaginary contractor, blame the storm. Blame me until the judge started reading timestamps and listening to that little sentence Kyle recorded. "Let's backdate the contract." The judge didn't smile. He didn't raise his voice. He just suspended the Homeowners Association charter, ordered assets seized, and opened the investigation right there on the record. All I did was nod because this wasn't a victory lap. It was cleanup. Lesson paper rules don't outrank real lives.